say the wrong number.
Yeah, I think we are on episode 13.
You heard it first here, episode 13.
Hello!
Out on an Island, episode 13. I don't think we have lyrics for today.
No, we don't. Not yet anyway. But thanks to everyone. I don't know if we said this last time, but thanks to everyone who gave us the lyrics for I think it's episode on gender roles. Is that episode 12 or 11?
Obviously, we don't have a whole lot going on we have too much going on, I guess. I was gonna say we're not focusing on this super heavily right now. Life's been fucking nuts for the past like 6 weeks, and it just keeps getting crazier.
Yeah. It was episode 11, and so I'm guessing that we already shouted it out, but because I forgot we're gonna do it again. Thanks to everyone who sent us lyrics. So what's going on? We're on stolen land.
Land acknowledgement. We're on stolen land.
And we have a formal land acknowledgement up on our website. If you want to see our formal land acknowledgement, just go to outonanilandpodcast.com, click on land acknowledgement, and it has the areas that we reference and how we are situated with the land. Yep,
that's something we should get better at remembering to do. I mean, we're getting pretty good at it. How you doing this week? How are things going?
Like, it's fine. It's ups and downs. It's good and bad. I'm trying to think. I did have like one win. So there was like I got selected for a fellowship program. It's for women in data science. And
congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm very excited to participate in that opportunity, and I'm looking forward to like what's gonna come up through that or whatever. It should be fun.
Cool.
Yeah. What about you?
What about me? Yeah, I don't know. Things have been fucking insane. I'm dealing with family stuff, with work stuff. I'm actually really excited I think I mentioned a couple episodes back that I started stepping back in with another client who is working on a documentary film. I don't know if I mentioned he's working on a documentary film. He's working on a documentary film.
No, I don't. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so not only am I doing like the grant writing for that, which to all you listeners out there who want to make documentary films, yes, you can get grants to do that. But also he kind of asked me like if I would be like an executive assistant for the project in general, just kind of be like a right-hand man. So I'm really excited about that because like this project is really, really close to my heart. And I'm really honored to be a part of it. So that's exciting.
It's exciting. Is that the project that got us talking about this project? This podcast?
No. That's a documentary that I wanted to make, which was actually, fun fact for everybody listening, the like seed of this idea was actually the idea for this podcast was actually a documentary that I wanted to make, and still might. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see if I ever have time in my life ever again.
Yeah.
Also fun story. This is really funny. I was standing in the hardware store today, and I'm helping my parents with some major housework they're doing, and it's literally like flipping a house in 10 days. Which is fucking wild. But anyway, so I was standing in the hardware store today picking up paint, and just from my outfit, which Alicia can see, but you guys can't see, it's about 10 years worth of paint coated on my outfit. 2 different people came up to me in line and were like, "Can I have your number because I'd like you to paint my house?"
Oh, that's not where I was expecting that to go.
Yeah, no one's hitting on me looking like this. Dang. No, yeah, I always tell myself like I'm not going to be a painter, but then I also never know how to turn down work. So, it looks like I just might be a painter for the rest of my life. We'll see. But yeah, so I don't want to do the work at all and I hate doing it. And then I think like, but I could really use that money. Like traveling sounds super sick, and then I overextend myself and it's a vicious cycle.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, pretty much.
At least you say yes to things you get paid for.
Yeah. Oh, that's that's I was gonna say like I'll pretty much do anything I get paid for, but that's not accurate. I won't do that. Don't send us any weird requests or anything. Unless it's foot modeling, because I will do that, but I promise you won't be stoked. What was I gonna say? Oh, current events. What's going on in the world of current events? You got anything you want to talk about?
I don't really know what's going on. I had a couple of things. So the mister was like, "Are you two gonna talk about gun violence at some point?" And I was like, "I imagine we're gonna have to. It's kind of a problem." Like,
well, we're talking about it right now, apparently. Gun violence. We can
I
talk
guess
about the
so.
very impassioned speech that Matthew McConaughey delivered. Did you see that?
I saw that he delivered a very passionate speech. I saw that there was some weird backlash to it because he has acted in movies where he has used guns, and people were like, he's doing this for the NRA because he used guns in movies. And I was like, that doesn't really track with me.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. Sometimes things get so crazy, like people's like need to be what's the word, out in like in the loop where others aren't or something, you know what I mean? Like I feel like if you look at this like an Occam's razor kind of situation, it's just because a mass shooting happened in his town and he's from that fucking town, you know what I mean? Like
that's what I thought.
If a mass shooting happened in my town and I had some kind of like fame platform, I would probably want to use my fame platform to talk about it too. But yeah, gun violence, it's at this point, it's crazy, like, because there's so many different sides to the issues, like, where there's responsible gun ownership, which, like, sure, dude, right on. But, like, what the fuck is the AR-15 for? You know what I mean? Like, other than to just be, like, a fucking death tool. Like, I don't understand what the fuck. You don't shoot a deer with an AR-15. You absolutely do not need to shoot a burglar in your house with an AR-15. I actually just listened to a really interesting episode of Criminal today. It's their most recent episode. It's called The Doctors, I believe. And they interviewed 3 of the nation's top trauma surgeons, particularly to find out what it's like when gunshot victims come in. And yeah, it's a really powerful episode. Like I said, the podcast is Criminal. It's an excellent podcast. If you guys are interested, need someone to listen to, I highly, highly recommend it. Can't recommend it enough. But they were specifically saying, all 3 of these trauma surgeons were saying that the hardest thing about gun violence in the country right now is that over the last like 10 years or so, it's been the increase in what they're seeing is, one, the caliber of bullets are much bigger than what gunshot victims used to come in with, and the number of bullets in the bodies is much larger. It used to be rare to see a gunshot where there were, or like a gun shooting where there was like 2 or 3 bullets in a body, but now like bodies are coming in just fucking riddled. And specifically, and it's a little bit graphic, but for Sandy Hook, they were saying that because one of the surgeons who was being interviewed was the trauma surgeon in charge of the victims for Sandy Hook. And they were saying that, like, they're not trying to be morose, but they feel like in order for people to understand the importance of like gun regulations, we as a nation need to start showing what that's like. And it's like, not to be disrespectful to the children that lost their lives, but like they think that there would be a big difference in how people actually felt about the issue if they saw what it was like for a child to be riddled with bullets. You know what I mean? Like they were saying, like, you know, people posting remembrance photos and stuff is all well and good, but it's not getting to the heart of the issue. Like, the rest of the country doesn't think about trauma the way that surgeons do, and they should, because it's, you know, and I think Matthew McConaughey was speaking to that in his speech as well, where he was saying, what we don't understand when we think about these situations is that the carnage is so vast that these bodies can't be identified by anything but DNA or like personal items of clothing that their parents can positively identify, you know? And like, I think that I hope that we're moving to a place where we start to realize like that this issue is a lot realer than sensationalized news hysteria. You know, like, for who's that dumb fuck that was trying to say like Sandy Hook didn't happen or whatever, that political.
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head. Let me try to find that. Wow. I do remember that was going around though.
Yeah, no, he was like a major Sandy Hook denier. What was his name? Jason drew a funny picture of him.
Alex Jones.
Alex fucking Jones, that dumb fucking piece of shit. You know what I mean? But it's like, I think it's really easy to have cognitive dissonance with guns, because you can say, I'm a responsible gun owner. I deserve to have an AR-15 if I want one. But like, and completely separate that from somebody who is not a responsible gun owner. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I don't know. Make them expensive. If you're going to have them at all, make them too goddamn expensive for everyone to afford.
Chris Rock had a great idea when he said, you know, make bullets $5,000 a bullet. It was in a comedy special, which, you know, is now having a resurgence. But like, he was like, I put that, you know, you you want somebody dead because you're like, I'm gonna get a bullet, I'm gonna put that shit on layaway, I'm gonna pay it off, and then I'm gonna come and like kill you or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, you know, there's a really interesting article actually, I believe about Sweden. Let me pull it up real quick here. Yeah, I mean, it was basically just highlighting how there's lots of first world countries that have like very free access to guns, but little mass shootings, and why that is, you know? And I mean, like, honestly, like, it seems pretty easy to understand why that is, because we are a capitalist nation. Like, the wealth disparities in this country create desperation and anger, and we perpetuate, you know, keeping underserved communities down, and we are just generally fucking terrible at being a country. So, but that's what's going on, you know, especially like the rise in mass shootings. Like, you just are suffering when you suffer like the citizens of your country to be uneducated and to only value themselves and their money and like these very superficial things about life. Then like, what else can you expect except that they're going to be stupid and desperate and angry? That's how I feel about it. Anyway, you got any thoughts there?
I mean, I feel very similarly about it. Like, it's not even the same, but what you just said really reminded me of like how we as a nation like value individualism, and like my experience is the most important experience, you know, our nation is number one, all these kinds of like elitist isolated kind of values. And it totally is disconnected from how we are actually many communities, and our
Yeah.
communities all interact with each other. And so there was this dude going on a rant on like this Hawaii is a unionized state, and so education is unionized. Staff and education is part of the state union, and then like university faculty have their own union. And we have a listserv to talk about like union business and governance and stuff. And I think I might have mentioned this dude wanted to do a survey because he was like, you can't make me wear a mask, because university policy is that as long as cases are going up and there's a high probability of transmission and infection, for summer and fall we have to wear masks. And like, so this dude was really upset about it. He made a survey. The survey was intentionally to show how many people don't want to wear masks. But out of the minimal number of people that did fill out the survey, 73% were totally fine with the mask policy and they liked it. And only 23%, my math is wrong, but it was something really low, like 23% opposed the mask thing. And this was out of like super small population. I think he only got like 37 responses across faculty from 10 campuses. Very
Everyone's
small.
like, shut up, guy.
Yeah, well, and then he, continues on, and it got real messy in there. People were saying all kinds of like real fucked up shit to each other. And he was just like, he was like, look, all I'm saying is that if you're under 70, and you're vaccinated, you're going to be fine. Like, we can't keep living in fear. And like, it was just totally like, it's not even tone deaf. Like, it's totally like you don't even know who your audiences are, like how many multi-generational families there are, that there are people that work at the university that are still like they're still alive and working and over 70.
Yeah, sure.
And then like all the other people that are in our peripheries. And so like when people kept trying to point this out to him, he's like, I don't know, I might have autism. And it's like, whoa. And then I felt kind of like, I've been sitting here watching you act like an asshole. I'm pretty confident I'm on the spectrum, and I know that my actions interact other people, or interfere with other people or affect other people. And like someone really eloquently pointed out that like being affiliated with the disability movement recognizes that all lives have value. So saying things like, people over 70 don't matter, only my opinion matters, like I don't really have to take into account like how my decisions affect other people, like that's counter to any kind of disabilities movement principles and values. And this is where I'm going with it. So I did write to him and be like, hey, look, I'm on the spectrum and I found what you said like really offensive. And, these are all the reasons why. And then I was like, it seems to me that this position comes from an immense place of privilege more than anything. And so if you want to work through your positionality and reflexivity to understand the bias that you probably have that's coloring your like ability to see what other people are seeing, or understand how this impacts others, like let me know. I will happily like work on that with you.
Sure.
And so that's kind of the same, like we just have pockets of these like privilege. Like, it's great that you've never known anyone to die of COVID. It's great you've never known anyone to die of gun violence. It's great you've never been affected by mass shootings. All of these things are the same but different. And it's like, if you can't empathize with what people are going through and recognize that this is a part of a bigger issue that affects us on a community level as the United States of America, like I don't even understand that you are just in it for profit. This is such a long rant.
It's a hard one. I mean, I do have to add to this by saying that the reason that this mentality is such a fucking plague through this nation, this like ability to bubble yourself up and like ignore everything that goes on outside of like your comfort zones and your social bubbles and stuff like that, is because the entire concept of the American dream as it stands begs its citizens to believe this, because the American dream by nature is that you can be anyone from anywhere and be successful, and you can be anyone from anywhere and make it here in this free country. And it's like, no, we do not recognize class discrepancies in this country. We won't do it, because that means that if we did, then the American dream isn't real, right? It doesn't exist. And so because we are so fucking far up our assholes as Americans who want to believe that the American dream is a thing, and like by its very like own definition, like the pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality. One, okay, America, literally, like from a literal stance, that expression doesn't make any sense. Okay, you can't pull yourself up by your bootstraps. That literally is a literary joke. So stop fucking saying it and stop trying to do it. It doesn't make any sense. Also, my next point is that if we started to recognize and make space to hear from different classes in this country, then we would have a better idea of empathy for other people, but we don't, and we don't want to. And like, I knew so many people, especially here in Hawaii, because, we were one of the safest states in the entire country during the pandemic, that were just saying, I don't even believe it's real. I don't know a single person who's died from COVID. And it's like, there's literally body trucks driving through New York right now, dude. They don't got room in the morgue. Like, they literally are just driving refrigerated trucks around right now, dude. Like, what the fuck? Like, it's just insane. Like, if you can't see outside of your own privilege, and like, not even privilege, because that's just a word that makes people be like, I'm not privileged, even though like, yeah, you are for sure. But I would say like your own like fortune in life, you know what I mean? Like the things that you have that you're just lucky to have, like we take those things for granted, and then we use them as a security blanket when somebody asks us to change something about that fortune, like a global pandemic. Like,
yeah.
And yeah, so anyway, I just, wanted to speak to that, because like I wholeheartedly believe that a big solution to a lot of the problems in this country would be recognizing the, discrepancies between class systems here and how they work, and totally doing away with the idea that you can be anybody and be successful here, because that is just not accurate.
Yeah, it's really not. I play a tabletop game on Saturdays with my mister and like Diz and our like mutual friends. And we're right now playing Cyberpunk, which is, like dystopian future, right? But when you look up shit about what like that civilization is like it's literally like today, like people are scrounging to make rent, like people don't necessarily know where food is going to come from. It's real hard to get work. All the things that seem really like dystopian in a not post scarcity, because that's the good kind, in the scarcity times, like we are there, and corporations are running the world basically. So it just is crazy. Like, yeah, if we could do away, like if we could strip away all the bullshit and look at like the systems that hold us down, like that would be that there is real bias. Like we didn't just construct police like out like to stop criminals, we invented like police to keep neighborhoods segregated, like race is a part of this too, and now people are monetizing and commercializing products associated with Juneteenth. It's like just as bad as what goes on with all of June and Pride Month. Like
fuck, man, that you want to talk about tone deaf.
Oh, I heard about some ice cream. Is that what you're going to talk about? I haven't seen it.
The marketing, like the labeling on it even, is just like, oh man. Like,
who makes it?
It was a Walmart brand. It was like Walmart's like shitty, and then they immediately,
that's Good Value or something.
Yeah, Good Value. They immediately released a fucking statement being like, sorry. And it was like, well, you're not sorry, you're stupid. Like, why would you even do that? Like, and it's always funny the way that corporations word those things when they get in trouble, where they're like, oh, we're going to be in serious talks with that one guy in our marketing department that did this. Like it wasn't approved by like corporate as a whole. You know what I
That
mean?
poor one dude probably was like, I don't think this is a good idea. And they're like, well, do you like having a job with medical
Yeah.
benefits? You know? Yeah. And it's just, so there's this great meme that I saw, and it's like, all companies for the month of June, and it's like all of these evil corporations from like gaming and stuff, gaming and film. So it's like the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, the Umbrella Corporation. Those are the first two that come to mind. And it's like all of these evil corporations have rainbow logos, you know, for June. And
Yeah.
because, you know, they just want to make money and they don't care about like their actual policies don't do anything to affect change, or like diversity has just become a buzzword. Like people are like, we need to be diverse, and they have no idea what it actually means, you know? There was one thing. Okay, so I use the umbrella metaphor like a lot when we talk about how like being punk or being liberal is like having this giant umbrella and then everyone can still like fit under it and be their own individual selves, right? And like believe what they believe. Like their umbrellas are small, but they can fit under this larger umbrella and there is space for them. Well, today I found out that in some schools of Christianity, they also have an umbrella like theory or something, and it is not that. And one of my friends was talking about how detrimental it is, and so it's directly in relationship to marriage. And so like the big umbrella is Christ, who has the ability to like abolish sins, and then there's pastors, and then there's husbands, and then there's wives, and wives, they're under their umbrella. Okay, so pastors then protect the church and oversee husbands. Husbands protect the family and provide for the family. And then there's the wife's umbrella, and the wife is under her umbrella is children and managers of the home. And my friend was saying it's like not even harmful theology, because it doesn't even begin to unpack the damage that it's wrought on families and all the women that are like harmed in the process. And like I just thought, oh, how interesting and like stifling, I guess. When I talk about an umbrella, I am not talking about that umbrella model at all. Mine is a theoretical, like it's not a real
Yeah.
model. And so I did just want to clarify that for anyone who has heard of that umbrella model to faith or whatever.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's pretty safe to say to anyone listening, we're not exactly religious, either one of us. So
Yeah.
it wouldn't pertain to faith.
Okay, I have a great segue. If you do you have anything else you want to talk about, news wise, gun wise?
No, not at all. My little head has been, I don't know, in a fucking paint bucket for the past like week, so I haven't even looked at the news. I don't know what's going on.
Some shit is going on.
It's always going on.
So when you were talking about the American dream, something came up for me and I thought, oh my gosh, what a great segue, because it is so like but a song came up for me, and it's the Cottonmouth King's Suburban Life.
Okay.
And yeah, the lyrics are like suburban life, the aim what it seems, suburban life, the American dream, suburban life, so pretty and clean, suburban life ain't what it seems, is like the chorus. And then it's like, fuck the system. And I thought, oh, what a good transition, because the Cottonmouth Kings are not punk. So today we're talking about other music that we listen to that isn't punk rock.
Yeah, because I think there's this really weird mythos about punk rock. It's actually probably the most detrimental mythos to punk rock as like from like a stylistic point of view, but like also just like the kind of people who identify as like punk rockers, because like anything that's going to keep your mind narrow and small is weird. Especially like it seems completely anti to like the entire ethos of punk rock in general, right? And so the idea that like to be a punk rocker, you have to listen to punk rock and nothing but punk rock, and that's what makes you a punk rocker. Like, I wholeheartedly disagree with that. You know, I think rebellion in any sense should be about choice and your ability to make your own choices instead of walking somebody else's. And it is really interesting that punk rock always falls into like this idea of like conformity, right? Like, no matter what, like, it always comes along with like this like list of rules of like what it is to be a punk rocker, which is weird. It's really weird. I think like, you know, the whole, it's fucking Pistol, right? Is that what it's called? Pistols?
Yes.
This Hulu show about the Sex Pistols right now. This is about to cause a huge resurgence for like punk rock culture in like mainstream culture. Not that like dumb fucking people like Machine Gun Kelly weren't trying to do that already, but like I think it's introducing some really interesting perspectives about punk rock as a subculture, because it's kind of talking about like, or I guess it's like kind of exposing the way that the Sex Pistols were started, which was by a trendy fashion, right? Like, it's just this trendy fashion, and like Malcolm, the fuck is his name? He wanted, you know, to start this like fashion icon revolution, kind of like very artsy movement, and thus like the Sex Pistols were born. But like in its essence, like, it was about being nonconformist and kind of just like challenging the status quo. So it's really weird that all the culture that came to follow that up until like a certain point in the mainstream perspective, like, came with like, oh, you have a mohawk, or you wear a leather jacket, or you know what I mean? Because it seems in it by its own very like conceptually, I guess it just seems like it's not that at all, which is like funny, because at the same time that the Sex Pistols were kind of doing that whole thing, bands like Crass were coming up and starting. And like, the reason that Crass wore all black on stage was because it was supposed to be like a statement against like having to wear all that stupid fashion and stuff to be a nonconformist. You know what I mean? Like, the irony of being a nonconformist when every punk rocker is wearing punk rock clothes is ridiculous.
Yeah, and I thought they did a really good job. So it was Malcolm McLaren, and
Thank you.
he ran the fashion shop. Sex is what it was called, and so he is the one that advocated that the name Sex had to be in the title or in the band name for the Sex Pistols.
Yeah, totally, because they were trying to sell Vivienne Westwood's clothes, right? That's who owned fucking Sex.
Yes.
Yeah. I you know, I mean, it just seems stupid by its own nature. And so anyway, when I was coming up in the punk scene, I mean, I think it's definitely something that you do as a stupid teenager, where like you want to be the most punk and like punk. And I remember the word poser being thrown around a lot. Do you remember when people used to call people posers?
Yeah, well, there was a really cute reference to that in the
SLC
Black
Punk.
Widow movie.
Oh.
No, where I was gonna say the cute reference was in Black Widow, when Natalia's spoilers if you haven't seen it, sister was like, "You're such a poser," and Natty was like, "I'm not a poser," and she's like, "Yes, you do. You pose all the time. You fall from the sky and then you pose on the ground and you just stand there and pose." And so it took it back a little bit. It was very cute. But yeah, SLC punk and poser.
Yeah, I mean, they threw that word around like the way that it was thrown around when I was a teenager, like, "Oh, you fucking poser," you know what I mean? As if like somebody has the I guess authority to like determine who and who isn't like a real punk rocker, which is very funny. And so anyway, the whole point of this like little tangent just being that like you can like anything you want and be a punk rocker. Don't feel weird about it, especially if you're like kids that are getting into punk rock now because you are riding this like mainstream resurgence of punk rock and like kind of seeing it for the first time. If you found our podcast because that has punk rock in the title, you know what I mean? Like, or in the tagline, I should say. Yeah, you can like anything you want. Music's awesome.
Music is awesome. What is your like favorite genre of music other than punk rock?
Oh God, that's so hard. Probably bluegrass, honestly. I'm a sucker for acoustic instruments, you know? Like, I really can't get down with like electronic music at all. It just doesn't do anything for me. And I think that's mostly just because like no soul in that, you know. I mean, there probably is for other people who like sounds computers make. I don't know, but like I feel like it's really missing like the heart, you know, and that's why like bluegrass is like it's got so much heart in it. And you know, like Irish music as well, like traditional Irish music, which is, you know, basically the foundation for bluegrass, is just so fucking good, like lyrically, on like musicianship level. It's insane. Time signatures are crazy. And you know, I mean, rock and roll was born out of it. Like we owe the Irish a lot.
Yeah. We used to have a show on NPR called Thistle and Shamrock, and that was a really fun show. It was just a whole bunch of like Irish music. Very fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really cool the way that Irish music and punk rock came together. Like, I think the most common thought when people hear like, oh, Irish punk is like shit like the Dropkick Murphys or whatever, but um I'd say like the Pogues, you know, like the Pogues were playing traditional Irish folk music, but they were just like punk rock kids doing it. So like they made it fucking awesome. Shane McGowan is a fucking hero, you know what I mean? And like lyrically, just a fucking he's just a fucking hero. The man's a hero.
Nice.
And yeah, so I mean, like I really like bluegrass a lot. I really like traditional music a lot. I mean, I listen to a lot of music that kind of takes a deterrent from like Eastern European traditional styles as well. Things like kalinka, which is like traditional Russian music, um, or things that like have heavy roots in like gypsy jazz, like Django Reinhardt. You know.
Yeah.
What about you? What do you jam into when you're not listening to punk rock?
I've been trying to think about that because I like all kinds of stuff. I so like if we're talking genres, the genre that oh my gosh, this is so I don't know. Okay. I like I like symphonic progressive instrumental metal. And
That's a mouthful.
I know it's so that's why I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so dumb. It's fine. So what I love about that genre is that it kind of is this catch-all for so many artists to just produce in whatever sort of, you know, subgenre of metal they're in, but without words. And so I really love to like write to that. It's not even, so one thing I really love, it's not even a genre, is like mixes. So I love people's personal mixes, like because it like is like this weird, it's an insight into people when they give you like a mix of what they like. And that kind of has transformed to like playlists, and then like off of that is movie soundtracks. Like some of my favorite soundtracks have a mix of ballads and pop and instrumental, and like, or they're well curated. Like the Romeo and Juliet soundtrack from 1996, I feel like is one of the best soundtracks of all time. I went to a performing arts high school, so like I also love musicals. I loved musicals before I went to a performing arts high school. Just so musicals, like, because they tell a story in such a meaningful way, like it comes across in everything they're doing, like their motivation, their like their actions, thoughts and interactions. And I don't know, like the fact that people like make a musical is just so like impressive. I don't know. Like so Hamilton is amazing. Yes, it leaves off a lot of things that are super problematic, like the stories of women aren't really a part of it, and it totally ignores like the, you know, Native Americans in colonial America at that time.
Yeah.
And so it is problematic for those things, but like it is a great musical for what it does accomplish, which is brings in different relevant cultural references to get people who usually feel excluded from musicals because it's so expensive to like go see them, like, and bring them into the culture and have those voices represented. And so for that, it's like amazing. Plus the story it tells is great from start to finish. And every character is unique. And anyway, so I love musicals. And there's a part of me, and it's a decent sized part, that just loves bad pop. Because pop is designed, pop by nature is designed to be to resonate with people. And there are formulas for how to compose a number one song in different seasons, and like the fact that some people just get the formula so wrong is just incredible to me. And like that it's out there for the world. And I'm like, yes, let's celebrate this terrible thing. I love bad pop. A good example of what I love is this song called Bitch, I'm Madonna, and it is by Madonna. And it's really bad. I have a whole playlist of bad pop songs that I'll just throw on when I want to be dancey, I guess.
When you're in a dancey mood.
Yeah, when I'm in a dancey mood. I think genres are hard for me, like, because I'll listen to pretty much anything. I really love when punk goes acoustic. Like, I don't know, it's still punk though, so. But it's like, yeah, play that song I love all slowed down and like on an acoustic guitar and like sing it like a ballad, yeah, give me a good ballad.
Yeah. I feel like this is kind of a topic that is maybe hard for like today's generations. Like I know that most of our demographic, at least according to our like anchor dashboard, is either in of our generation or a little bit older. We'll see if that changes with how popular punk's getting right now. But anyway, I think that's something that this generation is probably never going to understand. These like genre cliques that used to exist between like being a punk rocker and being like all of these things, because like now music is so accessible, you know what I mean? And like there isn't really like, it's not really clicky anymore, because like you can literally listen to anything at any time. Like Spotify will just build like an algorithm for you and be like, oh, you like this punk song, maybe you like this song that kind of sounds like punk rock by this totally different artist, like you don't have to try to look for music anymore.
Yeah,
when we were coming up, it was like a really big thing. Soulseek. I don't know if you remember Soulseek.
no, what is that?
It was like a downloading, like an illegal downloading thingy.
Oh, like
how
LimeWire.
Kazaa or LimeWire, yeah, exactly. And so like that's how we got all of our punk, and it was fucking awesome because it was just like user uploaded, right? So like anybody who had like these albums could fucking upload them, and there was an insane amount of music that was like available that I haven't even been able to find on the internet now, in like the day that everything is on the fucking internet. But like that's how we used to have to find music though. Like if you wanted to find punk bands that were like not from your area, that but like also weren't like mainstream bands, you like really had to go digging for it. And like now all you have to do is type in like punk rock to like your little YouTube and it'll pop up all kinds of stuff,
Yeah.
which is kind of rad because it does kind of take away some of that like punker than you, like toxic masculinity mentality. I don't know if that's ever actually going to go away, but it kind of does make it like less obnoxious, where it's like, oh, you don't listen to punk, then fuck you. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, I know we didn't really want to bring it up, but I'm going to bring up the NoFX concert in Las Vegas where he
Do
was
it.
like, yeah, okay,
Because
so
that's
fuck you.
fucked up.
Yeah, fuck you, NoFX. I'm going to say that right now. And I'm going to say it. I'm sorry to anybody who likes them, but like that statement was so one, it was fucked up in its general context. Like, fucking read the room, buddy. Especially like read the state that you're in. Holy shit. Also, you're a fucking asshole for bringing it up at all. But also, the way that you framed it, like, well, at least they weren't punk rock fans. What the fuck does that mean, dude? Like, are you
You might have to
insinuating-
back up and tell people what you're
Okay.
talking about.
I
Yeah.
should. Okay. I got really angry. Sorry, guys.
It's okay. You're allowed to have your feelings.
Thank you. Yeah, so basically, I guess, like, I'm not sure when it happened. I don't care about NoFX, but I did see the
It was
video.
October 1st. I want to say 2017. Because I got a
Okay.
tattoo because I'm from Vegas and I got a tattoo for the event. And also it happened on my mom's anniversary of her death.
Wow. Heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, what happens is there was a shooting, a mass shooting in Las Vegas. Stephen Paddock, a 60-year-old man from Mesquite, Nevada, opened fire on a crowd attending the Route 91 Harvest Musical Festival on the Las Vegas Strip. So from his 32nd floor suite in the Mandalay Bay, he fired more than 1,000 bullets, killing 60 people and wounding 411 people. That is mass upon mass shooting. That's a fucking massive shooting. And NoFX comes through not too long afterward on a tour, and for whatever reason found it appropriate to make the joke that they made a joke about shooting. Do you remember exactly what he said? I've only seen the video once.
I'm looking at the quote right now. I mean, that sucked, but at least they were country fans, not punk rock fans.
Yeah. Okay. So one, to bring it up at all.
And then he said, "Oh, did I offend somebody? I can't fucking believe it."
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about all the things that are wrong with that. To bring it up at all was fucking tone deaf, you piece of shit. But like, also to say, like, the way that he framed that, just like that is the kind of bullshit mentality, that obnoxious punk rock mentality. Like, at least they weren't punk rock fans. Like, how the fuck do you know? Do people wear fucking uniforms that distinguish them as punk rockers or not punk rockers? Or like, is that how you think of punk rock? You know, because like, how do you even, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, that statement in itself doesn't make any sense. These people, just because they were attending a country music festival, does not like bar them from being punk rock fans. They absolutely could have been. Or it doesn't fucking matter because they're human beings, you piece of shit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But like, that kind of mentality sucks. And that's a big reason why we wanted to talk about, you know, what other music we like beyond punk rock, because it is super punk to like other music, you know?
Yeah. Every year this magazine does, like, they interview bands and they get like, what are their like top 5 albums of the year? And some of my favorite bands listed their favorite albums that like were outside of the punk genre. And I think that's really important to recognize that good music happens everywhere and it's okay if you like it. Like, I really love Dr. Dre also. And his album Compton was like so amazing. I listened to it for probably a month straight. And like De La Soul's Anonymous No One, Anonymous
De La
Nobody.
Soul is fucking dope, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so dope.
I really love intelligent rap, like intelligent hip hop for sure. Like that whole East Bay scene that was like coming up in the 90s and like is still going strong now also, is really sick. Like things like Hieroglyphics, Deltron is so sick. I just started listening to this guy named Jarv. He's from Vermont, funny enough, and this motherfucker is sick. If you guys like nerdcore rap, Jarv, Jarv, so dope.
Okay.
Look him up.
Awesome.
But like, you know, that whole East Bay kind of sound, and then Hobo Johnson and the Lovemakers. That's like another thing that I've been pretty into recently. I'm gonna predecess that with the point that like he's very manic. So if that is hard for you to like deal with, then he might not be your cup of tea. But for what he's doing, like art wise, it's pretty unmatched. The guy's really got his own style going on, and it's very him, which like I think is better than listening to just the same old punk songs over and over again, you know? And I think that's kind of like, yeah, I guess like the big point of this is like, it's, it doesn't make any sense to be a human being and not to like enjoy all of the great art that like is created in this world. Just because you like punk rock and you like punk rock culture, like it doesn't make any sense to like narrow your mind to be one particular thing, or like whose standard of that thing also, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of like hate for country, but like, there's a lot of pop country, and there's a lot of artists that cross over into country. And so like maybe you don't like one particular style of country, but like I feel like we all supported Little Nas X in some way, like for what he did. And I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is like, even if you don't like something in one genre or whatever, like there's other subsects of that too, just like there's other subsects of punk rock.
Yeah, and like things that appeal to you and like that you can relate to, or like just, I mean, like on an individual level, like I love me a fucking sappy, sad white guy song. I don't love all of them. They have to, that comes with a nuance for sure. But like Connor Oberst, I think he's a fucking genius, dude. Like, and that this is this is where we lose listeners. I'm joking. If you guys are cool, you'll still be our friends. But like, because like on a lyrical level, like that's how I gauge music. That's why punk rock was such a big deal to me when I found it when I was young. And that's why like things like East Bay nerdcore rap are so impressive, because like the lyrics, you know what I mean? Like lyrics get me all the time for every genre of music that I like. It's the first thing that I listen to. It's the thing that I value the most. And I definitely value it over musicianship, which is why I like punk rock.
Same.
But like, so lyrically, like if you can write lyrics that like this sappy white guy music, like dang dude, sometimes the writing is so honest, like brutally honest about like human emotion, that like it should be embarrassing. But like good for you for fucking admitting that, and like not only that, but like putting it into a song that others can relate to, because it is important for like other people to realize that like their pain is like shared, even if it's superficial, or about like a relationship or whatever the fuck. Like it is like a it's really funny the way that like sappy love songs work. I was just listening to do you remember that song Mr. Brightside by the Killers?
Oh
like,
yeah, they're from Vegas. Yes, I
oh,
remember
okay.
that song.
Right on. Let me find out who did that song. I was just listening to like this playlist on the way up here. I listen to a lot of acoustic music when I'm like driving, chilling. And I think I was listening to not that. I was listening to the Blood Brothers on the way up here. That's definitely not mellow at all. Before that, I was listening to the Head and the Heart radio, which the Head and the Heart is a little like kind of, I guess they call it newgrass. There's like a trend of like neo, like, bluegrass that's coming out. It's kind of like pop country, but it's like pop bluegrass more than it is country. And it's folk. I guess it's like pop folk music. It's modern day pop folk, and I love folk music. I love Bob Dylan. I love modern day folk music. But anyway, so Run River North is the name of this band, and they do a very, very pretty acoustic cover of that song, Mr. Brightside. And I never really bothered to listen to that song's lyrics ever before, because I'm not really a Killers fan. But like I was listening to that song on the way up and I was like, this song is really beautifully written. Like somebody really wrote this from their heart. So good for them. There's a lot of detail in it. Yeah. Oh, you know who else I love? I fucking love Modest Mouse.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What's his name? Isaac Brock, I believe, is their lead singer.
Oh, I don't know
Isaac Brock.
actually. Isaac
Yeah,
Brock. Okay.
yeah. And he's the lead singer for Modest Mouse, and like lyrically, like I think he might be the best lyricist I've ever heard. Just because the way that he writes stylistically is like reading from somebody's journal. Like it's so honest, you know? And like that's what art should convey. It should convey individuality. It should convey honesty from like an individual level. And yeah, I get super obsessed with any music that has the capability of doing that.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I've been trying to really prioritize females in like my stylist, like in my music choices. Like, and I mean across many genres of things, because like when you realize that you are socialized in the patriarchy, right? You find yourself looking around at all of your artifacts and they all are created by men, or like the majority of them are. And it's like, oh, where are the women's voices? And why isn't the kind of money that went into promoting, this book series by, some dude, like, where's the money to like promote women or whatever in the art form? I guess the first thing that came to mind is the NBA and the WNBA. Like, where is the money to promote the WNBA in the same way that the NBA is pushed? I am gonna sound so basic. I really appreciate like what Taylor Swift has done. I've never been like a huge Taylor Swift fan. But like her ability to take her art back has been really awesome. And like so I wanted to try to like listen to that to like understand where she's coming from. And then like people who have produced albums out of like such like a laborious like journey, like Adele's 30 like is her album of her divorce, and like she lost so much weight going through that divorce and like had to upend her life and stuff. And so just like hearing people's stories just to help them, like see them as people. And the one that I really love that I think is like underplayed out of like this whole like trauma divorce album collection that was like the 2022 album releases is Mary J. Blige's Good Morning Gorgeous. There's a song on there where it's the prelude to the title track where she's just talking about how she wants to just like write this song, and they're like, well, what do you want it to be about? And she's like, well, life's really hard, and I just realized like I have to love me, like I have to love me if like I'm hungover, I have to love me if I don't feel like getting out of bed, I have to love me if I'm having a good day, I have to love me if I'm looking older, like I just wake up every day and I tell myself good morning gorgeous. And it's like, oh, that's so beautiful. Like
that's really cool.
Yeah. And so like I just like I want to feel things, but I also am like really, I'm kind of voyeuristic. So I'm like, let me see you. Like, what do you want to show the world of like who you are and like that vulnerability? And yeah, exactly what you were saying about like it's so vulnerable to put stuff out there, but you're putting stuff out there so that you can help other people feel seen as well. Like it just is so empowering and vulnerable at the same time. And yeah, so that's kind of the stuff that I'm into now because like the world is so crazy. Oh, and then Girl in Red. She is, I think she's Swedish or something. And she does like acoustic and electric, like electronic music. I love trance. Trance is like so awesome.
Yeah, that's where that's where I start getting lost with music. If there's not like a, I guess like a storyline in the music, I get like, I don't ever listen to music. I guess like classical. I listen to like classical music if I'm just trying to listen to music, but like just electronic music, I just, nothing does it for me.
Yeah, trance does it for me. Um, and like, I don't know, whatever. This is not that. So Girl in Red is Norwegian,
Okay.
and she like sings about her own like mental health journey. And like, I'm so sorry, mister, because I know you're gonna hear this, but like the first time we heard one of her songs called Serotonin, he just like fucking lost it. And it was the first time he ever really like felt seen for
Oh,
what his
wow.
like, yeah. Um and so just, I don't know, all the support for her for sure. Like, I like Girl in Red.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, it is so fucking cool when music does something for you on a personal level, you know? I mean, like I think there's different, we grew up, so like I grew up in Hawaii, not we grew up. I grew up in Hawaii, and reggae has always been such a big thing here. It's an island. It makes sense. It's logical. But like I hate it. And it's because I grew up with it, you know what I mean? And like it's just like I don't hate all of it, but like stylistically as like, you know, a genre, I don't care for it. But it's only because like I think I've heard Bob Marley every fucking day of my life since I've been born. Like um
And
I
it's easy
don't,
to play on the guitar, so don't forget all those parties where someone busts out like, don't,
that's
every
what I
little thing is
mean.
gonna be all right and stuff.
That's what I mean. Or like redemption song, like, and
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with Bob Marley. Like I understand that the man is like iconic in his genre and that like he was really important for like, you know, music history in general, but like um I just I just can't get down with it. And you know, it's really funny being here though, because oh, people get really offended when you say that. Don't say that in crowds here. Um And it's funny, like when music instills an identity in you, like which is exactly what we're talking about today, you know, where it's like, you know, punk. It's not chill to be like, I'm punk and I only listen to punk, but it's like also not that chill to be like, I like music, but I don't like that music, and then I be mad at people when they don't. Like
Yeah.
something that you consider to be iconic, you know? Like David Bowie is my favorite artist of all time. All right. Favorite artist of all time. And that's just a fact. But um, you know, I know lots of people who don't like Bowie, which sounds stupid to me. But
It's okay to judge people, you just can't treat them differently based on your judgments. That's where the
yeah, there you
because
go.
we're humans, we all judge people, but you can't be like, I'm gonna, pretend that you don't exist because you don't like David Bowie,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like, but like I said, are these things dying because music is so eclectic now and it's so accessible?
I don't think so. Um, I I think that we still judge ourselves by the perceived social norms of our community, right? And whatever the community maintains is how, what we do internalize. What's interesting about social norms is they don't actually exist. It's like people make decisions based on their own perceptions of how they believe others will judge them based on this collective like perspective that isn't
Hmm.
necessarily real, just we all have manufactured it.
Hmm.
Social norm theory is amazing. But the reason why I say I think it will always exist in addition to that is that I can ask a question and we both have answers to it. So the question is, what do you think is the most embarrassing song that you like?
Oh, I know the answer to this one. Uh, Miley Cyrus's Wrecking Ball. Bring it on. That is a banger.
Okay.
Yeah, no, like I said, any song that like has the ability to like hit me right in the feelings, right in the feels, I guess is what the kids say.
I hope they still say that. 'Cause
I hope they
like
do too,
that.
or else I sound really fucking old. But like, yeah, dude, like, anything that like grabs you like right there, and like there's something about that song, the way the little story she's telling in that song. I think it's really relatable.